Welcome to the introduction video to the JavaScript Interview question series. My name is Larry, and this is Digital Logic. To follow along in the series and complete the code challenges, you'll need to have a code editor installed, Node.js, and the code repository installed. So we'll start by installing a code editor. A free and popular option is Visual Studio Code. So open up a browser, and in the search bar, type in VS Code, and then click on the link for Visual Studio Code, and then click Download. Once the download is complete, install it. Accept the terms and conditions, and I'll just use the default settings for everything. VS Code is now installed, but I'm not going to launch it right now. We still have a few other programs to install first. So now we need to install Node.js. Node allows us to run JavaScript code outside of a browser. So open up your browser, and then in the search bar, type Node.js. And then click on the link that points to nodejs.org. Now you can download the LTS version or the current stable version. Either option will work just fine for what we need. Once it's done downloading, open the file and install it. So I'm just going to stick with the default options. So here you do have a choice. You can choose to install the additional C++ and Python build tools. It's not required to complete this series, but I'll go ahead and check it anyway. This will take a lot longer to install with that option checked. And then click Install to begin the installation process. So Node has been successfully installed. Now it's going to start to install the additional build tools, and this will take a while. So I'll fast forward through this section. So this first section took about 6 minutes to run on my computer. I am running Windows as a virtual machine, so that probably had an effect on it. When it got to this point, it took about another 10 minutes to complete the installation, so just be patient with it. Node is finally done installing. This next step is optional, and I'm going to install Git. VS Code does come with Git built in, so this isn't required, but it's nice to have. So open up a browser, then type Git in the search bar, then click on the link for Git, and of course download it. And then run the installer. Then I'm just going to stick with the default settings for almost everything. Here you can specify which text editor will be the default to use with Git. The default is Vime, and Vime is a console-based text editor. So if you're more comfortable with using something else, feel free to change it. I'm going to leave it set to Vime and continue. And I'm just going to leave all of these options set as the default. And then click Install. All right, so Git is now installed. Now we just need to download the code repository. So open up a browser, and then insert this address. A link will be in the description below. And then click on the code button, and we have a couple different options on how to download the repository. You could download it as a zip file, but you won't be able to download any updates through Git, and that's a pretty big disadvantage. So I'm going to demonstrate how to clone the repository through Git, and we'll be doing this in VS Code. So right under Clone, click the Copy button, and then we can close out the browser. And now open Visual Studio Code, and now press F1 on your keyboard. This will bring up a search dialog box, and then enter git:clone, and then press enter. Now press Ctrl V to paste the link address that we copied from GitHub, and then press enter. And then this will bring us a dialog box to specify where we want to clone the repository to. You can specify any location that you want. I'm going to put it on the desktop, and then select Repository Location. So VS Code is now cloning the repository, and then click Open Cloned Repository. So if I minimize VS Code, we can see the cloned repository on the desktop. So let's go back to VS Code, and then open up the source folder. And here you'll find a list of the existing questions for this repository as of the recording of this video. We need to install any dependencies that this repository requires before we can use any of these files. So open up the package.json file, and I'll increase the font real quick so it's a little easier to read. All right, so back to the package.json file. Notice that there's a section labeled Dependencies with 2 items in it, both for Jest. Jest is a testing framework in JavaScript, and in this repository, it's used to validate the solutions that you provide for each question. So to install the dependencies for this repository, open up a command line, and in VS Code, the shortcut is Ctrl+, and then type npm install, and then press enter. npm is the Node package manager, and right now it is downloading all of the dependencies into the Node modules folder. So now that that is completed, let's close the package.json file and open up the fib.js file. Each question includes directions, followed by examples, and then a place to put your solution. To run a test for a solution, in the terminal type npm test and then the name of the file. If you don't provide the name of the file, Jest will test every file in the source folder, and then press enter. The tests are set up to run in watched mode. What that means is anytime you make a change to the file and then save it, the test will automatically rerun. And as you can see, the current test is failing. The testing framework will test any function that you include in the module exports. So you can provide multiple solutions, and the testing framework will test all of them. To stop the test from executing, make sure that the focus is within the terminal, and then press Ctrl+C on your keyboard. If Node becomes unresponsive during testing, which can happen if you accidentally create an infinite loop within your code, you'll need to kill the Node process. To do this, right-click on the taskbar and select Task Manager, and then find the Node process, and then right-click on it and select End Task. All right, that is it for this video. In the next video, we'll be going over the classic FizzBuzz interview question. So I'll see you in the next video.